Okay, so today we will discuss chapter 7. This is the part 1 of chapter 7, asymmetric cryptography. It's the continuation of chapter 6 where we discuss the symmetric cryptography. So we have mainly 5 main things to discuss today. We'll start with the definition of asymmetric encryption and definition of digital signatures, how we can create digital signatures, how receiver can verify sender's signature. We'll talk about it. Then we'll discuss some challenges of crypto key management, how we can rekey, why we need to actually change the key, and how we can distribute the keys, the problem of reusing a key, what could be the problems, and what's the role of nonce and key wrapping. And do we use key wrapping in our today's scenario or not? We'll talk about key wrapping in detail, nonce in detail, rekeying, reusing of a key, rekeying, and all that stuff in detail. So these are the 5 main things that we're going to discuss in our today's class. So first is the asymmetric encryption, or you can also call it public and private key cryptography. So this is basically the best diagram or figure to which we can understand how we can do the asymmetric encryption. So if you see this figure again, as you guys remember, in asymmetric encryption, both sender and receiver, they have 2 keys, public key and private key. Receiver has public and private key. Please remember one thing, these keys are interdependent. Let's say, for example, if you encrypt anything by using sender's public key, it can be decrypted by using only sender's private key. If you encrypt anything by using receiver's public key, can be decrypted by using private key of receiver. So vice versa, like if you encrypt anything by using receiver's public key, can be decrypted by using receiver's public key, private key, public key in fact. So otherwise, so if you encrypt anything by using this private key, sender's private key, can be decrypted by using sender's public key. So for example, this particular sender, it could be Alice or Bob. Let's say the sender wants to send a message to receiver. So what sender will do, this is the message, sender and receiver, they need to use the same algorithm, asymmetric algorithm like RSA, Diffie-Hellman, or elliptical curve cryptography, etc., etc. There are many, we'll discuss that in our second part. So sender wants to send a message to receiver. So sender will encrypt the message by using public key of receiver. So sender will use public key of receiver because public key is a key which is publicly available to everybody. Anybody can access your public key. So sender will access public key of receiver, encrypt the message. So message will become a ciphertext. Now this message will be transmitted over insecure channel. Only receiver, because this particular message is encrypted by using public key of receiver. So receiver's private key can be used in order to decrypt it. Nobody else can actually retrieve that. So once receiver receives this ciphertext, receiver will use the same algorithm and use his private key to decrypt the message to retrieve the original message back. So few things to remember about the asymmetric encryption. Number 1, sender uses receiver's public key to encrypt the message. Encrypt the message. So please remember, in asymmetric encryption, to create ciphertext, sender will use receiver's public key. Then upon reception, upon receiving, the receiver will use his private key to decipher or to decrypt the message, or decrypt the ciphertext, to retrieve the original message back. For encryption and decryption, please remember, the sender will not use his keys, nothing will be used. Only receiver's public key will be used. Receiver will use his private key to decrypt the message. But in the case of digital signatures, as I mentioned earlier, digital signature is basically, we use digital signature for non-repudiation. Like sender cannot disown their actions. So for now, just for the basic understanding, I'm just going to take off the encryption for just a moment. I will discuss digital signature plus encryption in the next in a few moments, in fact. So if you see, for example, how we can create digital signatures. To create digital signature, again, same rule. Sender has public key and private key. Public key accessible to everybody. Anybody can access your public key. Private key known to sender only. So same is the case receiver. He has public key and a private key. Public key of receiver can access by anybody, and a private key is only known to receiver. So let's say, for example, sender wants to send a plain text, a message to receiver with a digital signature. So as I told you earlier, we are not basically putting encryption just for a moment. So let's say sender wants to send this plain text to receiver with a digital signature. How digital signature can be calculated? Sender will calculate a hash value of the message. Whatever the message will be, sender will calculate hash value of the message, pass it from the hash algorithm, MD5, SHF512, and etc. And we will get hash value. Technical name of hash value is message digest. It's a technical value for hash value. Technical is the technical name for hash value. So our plain text, we will calculate the hash value or message digest of the plain text, and then we will encrypt this message digest or the plain hash value using sender's private key, because we are creating signature. Nobody else can sign up for you. But what we will do is message digest will be encrypted by using RSA or any asymmetric algorithm, and sender will use his private key to encrypt the message digest. So digital signature, that's the digital signature. Now what we will do is we will actually concatenate plain text with digital signature. As I told you, we are not assuming any encryption. We are not assuming that, we are assuming that nobody is basically sniffing over conversation. Next, when receiver receive it, what will happen? Receiver will detach plain text with the digital signature. For the plain text, receiver will use the same hash algorithm and calculate the message digest of the plain text, just to see whether it has been modified or altered and stuff like that. Now for digital signature, receiver will reverse this phenomena. Receiver will actually calculate the message digest, decrypt the digital signature or calculate the message digest by using sender's public key. Why? Because this message digest was encrypted by using sender's private key. As I told you, if you encrypt anything by using private key, can be decrypted by using public key. So what does it mean? We are verifying the signatures. Once we decrypt the digital signature, we will get message digest, and then we'll make a comparison of the this message digest of plain text and this message digest. If both values coincide, it means message is validated and sent from the right user, valid user. So if you see in digital signature, sender use his private key, and anybody can verify your digital signature because they have your public key. With your public key, they can verify your digital signature. Okay, so before we go to some definitions of digital signature, let me show you another perspective of this public and private key kind of stuff. So now if you can see down here, it's a complete picture of encryption plus creating a digital signature. If you can see down here, let's say again we will use two steps here. Firstly, let's say I just want to encrypt the message plus sender wants to put his digital signature as well. Sender, this is the plain text. Sender will calculate the ciphertext, again doing the same way. If you want to calculate ciphertext, you need to actually use receiver's public key. So sender plain text using RSA. This is the asymmetric encryption algorithm. Sender will actually use receiver's public key, encrypt the message, calculate ciphertext. To put his digital signature, sender will calculate the again repeat the process. Like sender will calculate hash value or message digest of the plain text. After that, sender will calculate encrypt the message digest by using his private key and got a digital signature. Now we will concatenate ciphertext and digital signature and send this ciphertext plus digital signature to receiver. Once receiver receive it, receiver will detach them. For ciphertext, as you know, ciphertext can be decrypted by using his private key of receiver because it's got encrypted by using receiver's public key. So receiver will decrypt the the ciphertext by using his private key. We got a plain text, and then calculate the hash value to calculate message digest, just to verify integrity and non-repudiation. For digital signature, again, digital signature can be verified by using sender's public key, decrypt, you got an message digest, and then make a comparison. If both values coincide, it means message has not been tampered and came from the legitimate person. So this is basically how we can create digital signatures, and that's the way how we can perform encryption and decryption in asymmetric encryption. So again, for digital signature, few things that you need to remember. Number one, to create digital signatures, sender uses his or her private key. So to create digital signatures, sender will use his or her private key, and to verify digital signature, the receiver will use sender's public key. Okay, so it's just the otherwise or the opposite of the encryption. Next, basically, this is very important, by the way. If you got that, so you nailed the whole chapter. Next is what are basically key management challenges. So first of all, as we discussed in our previous chapter, the most important thing to protect or to hide is basically our key. So key is basically the most important parameter in encryption and decryption. We don't actually hide algorithm. Everybody knows the structure of algorithm. The only thing that we need to protect is the key. So you can, rather than protecting the large amount of data, we just have to protect key, a small key. But there are a few challenges. Number one, the first challenge is how we can share the key. Share key with right people. This is the first challenge. Second challenge is it should not be easy to guess. So we need to choose some key which cannot be guessed. Number three, we need to actually distribute. Key distribution is another challenge. Key distribution, how to distribute the key among the right people. There is a term that you guys will see again and again. This is called CryptoNet. CryptoNet is basically a group of the trustworthy people, like set of people who use same key, or you can say who share the same key. Like, for example, the people who has your private key information and all that. This is called CryptoNet. Next, there is a term which is called rekeying. So now we are clear about it. These are the problems. We'll talk about all these problems one by one. There is a phenomena which is called rekeying. Rekeying means when to change the key. Like, should we change the key after each session? Should we change the key after 1 year, 2 years, and all that stuff? There is a term called crypto period. Crypto period is basically a key's safe lifetime. So lifetime of a key, when we need to change the key, should we change the key, and all that stuff. So first of all, let's see how we can do the distribution of the key. Then I'll come to how we can generate the keys. We'll talk about it. Then we will discuss how to share the key among right people and all that. And then we will talk about rekeying as well. So first of all, key distribution. Key distribution mean, let's say this is the server, main authentication server. Let's say it is a AAA server, for example, how it can distribute the keys to the legitimate users. So the first problem is key distribution. So to distribute the keys, there are mainly two methods. AAA server, they can distribute the key among user by using two main ways. Number one, firstly, we can actually person to person, for example, person to person. There is one way to distribute the key person to person. Like for example, let's say you can call the person, hand over the key and ask him, hey, you gotta use, like the Soviet spies example, you can actually give them 365 one-time pad and ask them to use these particular keys for 1 year. It's not practical in our digital world. So in digital world, how do we distribute the keys? We distribute the key electronically. So electronically, we distribute the keys among the users and people. Now, what are the problem? Electronically means like over, by using internet protocols and all that. So problem. What are the problems of electronically? People can sniff your conversation. It could be sniffed. Sniffing is the problem. Like you are distributing the keys can be sniffed. Secondly, people can make undesired copies. Like you don't want to actually make them copies of your private key, or let's say to distribute your private keys illegally and all that, to compromise the system or to launch DOS attack. But these are the two problems. Like sniffing is a problem. How you can make sure people will not make undesired copies or start distributing the keys to other unauthorized people. These are the two problems that we will talk about. Let's understand sniffing. How we can avoid sniffing and how we can avoid undesired copies. Let's make a small scenario just to make you understand the encryption scheme. So for now, I'm just taking off the discussion of asymmetric encryption just for a moment to make you understand the concept of key wrapping and rekeying, in fact. So of course, after that, I will come back to that. So let's say, for example, we have a key. And let's say this is basically our key. Secret key, for example. Secret key. So in simple example, what we do. This is a secret key. Let's say sender and receiver, they both have the same key for life. For example, for lifetime, they have the same key. They will use the same key for their lifetime. So what they would do is they use some encryption algorithm, symmetric maybe algorithm, because if they're gonna use the same key, so there's no problem. And let's say this is the plain text. Each time plain text will get changed, we'll use the same key, and we got a ciphertext. This is what we discussed simply in encryption. In order to make it slightly, to make it more, like more sophisticated, what we did or what we can do is we can do, rather than using plain key, what we can do is we can actually calculate a hash of the key, okay, and use a hash as a key. Again, encryption algorithm, we can call it internal key or whatever you want to name it. And let's say this is the plain text is same, and we got a ciphertext. Okay. Now, in order to decrypt this ciphertext, receiver need to know the key. So receiver has to have the same hash algorithm, and then receiver can decipher it. Okay. Now the problem with this particular system is, like, if we don't change this key, like we keep this key for long. Let's say we keep this key for, let's say, 1 year, 2 year, and stuff like that. So what will be the problem? The problem is that, for example, if anybody is sniffing your data for long, let's say you have a data, for example, you have this particular key for long, you're using the static key, and you have a message to transmit. Let's say message is ABC. We are using the same algorithm. Receiver knows the algorithm, and let's say we got 1, 2, 3 ciphertext. Next, let's say we use the same key, and let's say message is same algo, but this time message is ZXA. We got, for example, 3, 4, 5 ciphertext. Now receiver, who is basically sniffing our conversation, if receiver has 1, 2, 3, and receiver has, for example, 3, 4, 5. For example, we did the, in algorithm, we are just taking XOR. If receiver take XOR of these two ciphertexts, what receiver can get? Receiver can actually get your joint the what we call the plain text. For example, receiver can get A, B, C, Z, X, A, some other stuff as well. But receiver can actually have your combined secret. That's the biggest problem of duplicating the key stream. Like if you repeat the key again and again, you are basically leaving some footprints for the attackers, and attackers can actually retrieve your original message contents. Now, in real world, back in during the World War II, Soviet spies, they started reusing their one-time pad, and the U.S. Army has cracked many of their codes. In fact, the question is how we can actually rekey, like how we can avoid staticness, how we can avoid this static, how we can make these keys dynamic, fresh all the time. How we can make it dynamic? The solution is to avoid this static behavior. We need to use nonce, random numbers. So in order to avoid in order to actually avoid this staticness, in order to actually introduce freshness, in each time you should have the same key, different key, sorry. So we need to introduce nonce, or random numbers. So now let me revise this particular with the introduction of the nonce. Okay, now let's say, for example, I just changed the example how we can use the nonce now. So again, same thing. Let's say this is the key. Now for each time, for each iteration, we are adding this random nonce in the key, just adding for freshness, and we use a random number generator, let's say on the sender side. So what will happen? Now what will happen? We will add a key, we will add a random nonce with a key, calculate the hash value, and we will have a new key each time, because whenever you change the random number, automatically this output will get changed, and you will have a fresh key each time. We will use this key, encrypt symmetric encryption by using a plain text. Let's say this is the plain text. We'll encrypt this plain text using a fresh key each time. We got a ciphertext. Now the thing is, how receiver can decipher it, how receiver can decrypt it. Now receiver can decrypt it if receiver has this random number generator. For example, if it would be receiver is a low cost device, or let's say it has less computational power. For example, just like your cell phone, or for example, sensor. So what will happen for this particular example? Receiver sender has to send this random number along with this ciphertext. What does it mean? So how receiver can decipher it is receiver. Let's say receiver receives this ciphertext. So let's say receiver knows the algorithm. We know the algorithm, encryption algorithm. But do you think receiver got this key? We are assuming that receiver has this secret key. But do you think receiver has this particular key to decrypt it? Not. So what will happen? We need to actually, sender has to send nonce. We are assuming that receiver has already that secret key, this secret key. But we have encrypted by using a nonce as well. So we have to send nonce plus the ciphertext to our receiver. Once receiver receives ciphertext and the nonce, this nonce, let's say, receiver will detach ciphertext, key plus nonce, and receiver will actually calculate hash, generate this key, like this particular key, and then receiver can decrypt the ciphertext and can have the plain text back. But now the problem, do you see the problem? The problem is that if we send ciphertext and plain text, nonce or random number in a plain text form, if anybody is sniffing over conversation, they can also, they can also retrieve that, because whole point is to bring freshness, and if we disclosing the freshness in that way, it's gone. So there will be no point, in fact, in that way. So let me repeat it, what we discussed. In order to increase the freshness, what we did is we actually add a random number with a key, with a secret key which receiver already knows. Then we calculate a hash value of this combination. We got a key, encrypt the plain text by using a symmetric encryption algorithm like DES. By using this key, we got a ciphertext. Now, we are assuming that receiver does not have this random number generator because of low cost. So sender has to send this random nonce with the ciphertext, because if we don't send this random nonce, how receiver can generate this key? Receiver has only this secret key, for example. That particular secret key. So what receiver will do, if we send random number plus the nonce plus the ciphertext, receiver will actually detach this nonce and then add this with the key and calculate the hash value to generate that key and then finally decipher. But the problem is, if we send this random number with the ciphertext in a plain text form, whole exercise will be, all effort will be in vain. So in order to actually protect this random nonce from sniffing, we use a concept which is called key wrapping. Key wrapping. So key wrapping is basically we wrap the random number. We wrap the random number and send it to receiver. Let me explain you in simple word. For example, let's say this is my sender. And let's say this is my receiver. Okay, I'm assuming that receiver cannot generate a random number. Receiver cannot generate a pseudo random number generator. So let's say sender has a key. Let's say this is my secret key. I named it, for example, let me name it KEK. Key encryption key, for example, KEK. And receiver has a key, same key, receiver got the same key, KEK. Okay. And let's say both parties, they know the algorithm and all that stuff. Now let's say sender wants to send this plain text. Plain text, they have the same algorithm. They know the DES algorithm, for example, they are going to use DES algorithm. Receiver knows we're going to use DES algorithm. Sender knows we're going to use DES algorithm. So if we use the same key again and again, so as I mentioned earlier, it will be a staticness and people can sniff your you are best leaving your footprints and all that stuff. So let's say this is the plain text. Receiver wants to send this plain text, but each time with a fresh key. And I just want to securely exchange the key with my receiver as well. So what will happen? Sender will not use this key to encrypt the message. Sender will use a plain text, a random number generator. Random number generator. Let's say LCG or something like that. Each time sender is generating a new key, let's say it is called CEK, cipher encryption key. Cipher encryption key. This is just a key, in fact. Cipher encryption key. A random number, whatever you want to name it. Sender is basically encrypting this plain text with this random number generator using the same encryption algorithm, like DES, for example. We got ciphertext. So message got encrypted by using this random number. Do you think receiver can decrypt it? No. Receiver need to know the CEK or the random number which this sender is using in order to decrypt it. So if we actually, this is the ciphertext, if we add this CEK as it is, like CEK as it is, so what's going to happen? Sniffers, they can also get the CEK, and we don't want this. So what we will do is, we will encrypt this CEK after, once this random number will be generated. What we will do is, we'll use the same DES algorithm, like this is CEK. Okay, we will encrypt this CEK by using DES algorithm and encrypt with KEK. So let's say CEK is your plain text now, and use this KEK to encrypt it. So by doing this, we will have CEK in ciphertext, like wrapped, or you can say encrypted. We will have encrypted CEK. So now what we will do is, we will attach this encrypted CEK along with the message. So now we have ciphertext plus encrypted CEK. Now once receiver this is called key wrapping, by the way. Now once receiver receive it, so if you see, receiver will get ciphertext plus this CEK, the random number through which the message has been encrypted. Let's say this is CEK. So first of all, what receiver will do? Receiver will actually feed this ciphertext to DES or encryption algorithm. In order to decrypt it, receiver needs CEK. So in order to retrieve CEK, we need to unwrap it. So what receiver will do? Receiver will again feed this to DES algorithm, use this KEK, which they already knows. If you see, CEK was encrypted by using KEK, and the receiver already knows that. Use this KEK and then we will have CEK, unwrapped. Now receiver will use this CEK with DES algorithm, ciphertext, and we can have the plain text. This procedure is called key wrapping, and we use key wrapping in every field. We will use everywhere in our and asymmetric encryption. In symmetric encryption, we use that whenever we whenever we use the encryption algorithms for bidirectional communication. So again, please remember one thing. The whole idea is what we do is we encrypt the data by using random number, which is CEK, and then encrypt this key by using pre-shared key, and then encrypt that, and then we concatenate this encrypted key or random number with the ciphertext. Receiver, once they receive it, firstly they need to unwrap this key. Once they unwrap this key, then they can actually unwrap this, decipher the ciphertext. In order to unwrap them, they will use their private key, because this is the way how receiver has done that. So next is the last thing for today, just to give you example of the CEK thing by using the, it's basically slide number 12, a DVD key handling. So for example, once you insert the DVD in your DVD player, how they start reading out the data. Let's say this is your DVD. This is your DVD. And for example, if you insert this and DVD is the data inside the DVD is basically encrypted. And DVD comes with mainly two keys. One key, it is called wrapped disk key. And secondly, it has wrapped title key. So what does it mean? It means if you want to read the contents, if you want to watch DVD, the most important key is this one, title key. You need to unwrap this title key, and you can unwrap or you can decrypt all the tracks in your DVD. So if you want to watch DVD, you need to actually unwrap this title key. Okay, because this is again encrypted. In order to unwrap this title key, we need to use this disk key. But this key is also wrapped. So what happens? Once we insert the DVD in DVD player, so within DVD player, there is a player key, DVD player key. So what happens? DVD player, first of all, when you insert DVD, it decrypt or unwrap this disk key by using player key. It's player key, DVD player key. Using again encryption algorithm, symmetric encryption algorithm. In order to decrypt a unwrap disk key, we will do that, and we will get the disk key. Unwrap disk key. Now with this disk key, we can actually unwrap this title key. So DVD player will use this disk key, use the encryption algorithm. It's basically decryption algorithm, but I'm using that particular term. It is decryption algorithm, by the way. Decryption. Same is the case with here, decryption. So decrypt that, and after decrypting it, what will happen? We will have the title key. With this title key, because in DVD the songs or the data is basically written in the form of tracks. Each track is basically, or each sector is encrypted. By using title key, you can decrypt all the sectors. You can decrypt all sectors, all tracks, and you can watch all stuff. So this is, by the way, the best example of key wrapping with the symmetric encryption reference. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. We can discuss that in our online session as well.